I loved him most of the mornings, before he remembered to be careful. The coffee maker always started at 6:15. I'd hear it from the bedroom, that mechanical sigh, the slow drip into the glass pot. Then his footsteps, barefoot on the kitchen tile. He'd bring me a cup without asking, still warm enough to fog my glasses when I leaned over it. We didn't speak much before 7. We didn't need to. The silence between us felt like proof of something permanent. That was June. By September, I couldn't remember the last time he'd brought me coffee. This isn't fiction. This is how love disappears, one small truth at a time. We had built our life around predictability: work, dinner, television, sleep. Weekends meant the farmer's market on Saturday, his mother's house on Sunday. I liked the rhythm. It felt adult, intentional. The house we rented was small, but ours, a blue Craftsman with creaking floors and windows that stuck in summer. We'd painted the bedroom ourselves, argued about the color, settled on something called morning fog that looked different depending on the light. There were rituals. Thursday nights, we ordered Thai food from the place on Maple Street. He always got pad see ew, I always got green curry. Friday mornings, he left post-it notes on the bathroom mirror. Stupid jokes, mostly. Reminders that he loved me written in his messy handwriting. I saved some of them in a drawer I never opened. When people asked how we were doing, I always said the same thing: good, really good. And I believed it, the way you believe in anything you've repeated often enough. We'd been together for 7 years, married for 3. We knew each other's orders at every restaurant, each other's passwords, the exact words to say when one of us had a bad day. That felt like intimacy. That felt like enough. Sarah had been my friend since college. 12 years of birthdays and breakups and late-night phone calls that stretched past midnight. She was the first person I told when he proposed. She helped me pick the dress, a simple ivory sheath I found on sale, nothing fancy. At the wedding, she cried harder than my mother did. She gave a speech about soulmates and forever that made everyone laugh and tear up at the same time. She lived 20 minutes away in a studio apartment that always smelled like lavender and burnt toast. She came over for dinner twice a month, sometimes more. She'd bring wine and stories about her disastrous dating life. He liked her. She made him laugh in a way I didn't. Something about her timing, her willingness to be ridiculous. I was grateful for it. I thought it meant we'd all grow old together, the 3 of us trading stories over wine until our hair turned gray. I remember one night in particular, maybe May or early June. We were on the back porch, the 3 of us, citronella candles burning to keep the mosquitoes away. She was telling some story about a Tinder date who'd brought his mother along. He laughed so hard he spilled his beer. I watched them. Both of them doubled over, and I felt this quiet swell of happiness. This is what family looks like, I thought. This is what it means to build a life. I didn't know then that memory would corrode, that I'd replay it later and see everything differently. The way she touched his arm when she laughed, the way he looked at her a beat too long, the way I'd felt like a guest at my own table. When my father got sick in August, I didn't hesitate. He was alone in Oregon, too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to hire a nurse. The doctors had called it stage 4, like that was supposed to mean something. I knew what it meant. It meant time was running out. It meant I needed to go. I bought a one-way ticket and told my boss I'd work remotely. I packed for 2 weeks, maybe 3. I filled a suitcase with clothes I didn't care about. Soft things, practical things. The kind of outfits you wear when you're spending your days in hospitals and your nights crying in guest bedrooms. "I'll be fine," he said when I worried out loud about leaving him. We were standing in the kitchen. He was folding dish towels, which he never did. His hands moved slowly, deliberately, like he was trying to prove something. "You need to be with your dad." "I know, I paused, looking for the right words. "It feels like bad timing. There's no good timing for this stuff." He set the towels on the counter and kissed my forehead. His lips were warm. His hands on my shoulders were steady. "Go, I'll hold down the fort." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that our life was solid enough to withstand a few weeks apart. We'd done it before: work trips, family obligations, long weekends spent in different cities. We always came back to each other. We always fit back together like nothing had changed. Sarah texted me that night after I'd landed in Portland and picked up the rental car. "Let me know if he needs anything. I'm close by. I can check on him." I didn't think twice. I wrote back, "That would be amazing. Thank you." She sent a heart emoji. I sent one back. Oregon was harder than I expected. My father was thinner, quieter, more fragile than I'd ever seen him. He'd been a broad-shouldered man once, the kind who could lift furniture by himself and fix anything that broke. Now he moved like he was afraid his bones would snap. The house smelled like old books and unwashed sheets and something medicinal I couldn't name. I spent my days cooking meals he barely touched, organizing pill bottles into those plastic containers marked with the days of the week, sitting beside him while he slept. His breathing was labored, even in rest, a wet rattle that made my chest tighten. Sometimes he'd wake up and look at me like he didn't know who I was. Other times, he'd reach for my hand and hold it without speaking. At night, I called home. He always answered on the second ring. "Hey, you." "Hey, how was your day?" "Fine, quiet, ate leftovers, watched that documentary you wanted to see." "How was it?" "Boring as hell." He laughed. I smiled. The distance felt manageable when he laughed like that. We'd talk for 20 minutes, maybe 30. He'd tell me about work, about the neighbor's dog that wouldn't stop barking, about the grocery store running out of the bread I liked. Normal things. Comfortable things. I'd tell him about my father, the good days and the bad ones, the way time moved differently here, slow and fast at the same time. "Sarah stopped by," he said one night. "Brought groceries. She's worried you're not eating." "That's sweet of her." "Yeah." She stayed for a bit. We watched the game. I pictured them on the couch, the television flickering blue in the dark. It made me feel less guilty for being gone. It made me feel like maybe I wasn't abandoning him after all. I thought, at least he isn't alone. "Tell her thanks for me," I said. "I will." After we hung up, I sat in my father's dark living room and felt something I couldn't name. Not worry, exactly. Not suspicion. Just a small flutter of unease, like when you forget to lock the door and can't remember if you actually forgot or just think you did. I pushed it away. I had enough to worry about. I didn't know then that this would be the last month I trusted my own memory. 3 weeks in, my father stabilized. The hospice nurse said he had time, maybe months, maybe more. He'd rallied, she said, the way some people do. His appetite came back. His color improved. He started telling stories again, long, rambling ones about his childhood, about my mother before she left, about mistakes he'd made and things he wished he'd said. I should have been relieved. I was. But I also felt this pull toward home, this need to get back to my own life, my own bed, my own routine. I missed the way the house smelled. I missed my coffee mugs. I missed him. I booked a flight home for the following Tuesday. I wanted to surprise him, so I didn't mention it. I just texted, "Miss you. See you soon." He wrote back, "Miss you too. Safe travels." That night, I couldn't sleep. My father snored in the room down the hall, a deep, rhythmic sound that should have been comforting, but just made me feel more awake. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything I needed to do when I got home. Laundry, groceries, catch up on work emails, fall back into the shape of the life I'd left behind. I scrolled through my phone, aimless and exhausted, the way you do when your mind won't settle. Instagram, email, news I didn't care about. Then I opened Facebook. I hadn't posted anything in months. I barely checked it anymore. But Sarah had tagged me in something earlier that day. A throwback photo from a trip we'd taken years ago, some beach weekend where we'd gotten sunburned and drunk on cheap margaritas. I clicked through to her profile to like it, and that's when I saw them. The photo was recent, posted 4 hours earlier. She was standing in front of a restaurant I didn't recognize, holding a cocktail glass with something pink inside, her head tilted back mid-laugh. She wore a dress I'd never seen, deep green, fitted, the kind of thing she saved for special occasions. Her hair was curled. Her lipstick was perfect. His arm was around her waist. I stared at it. My hands started shaking before my brain caught up. It wasn't definitive. Not yet. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she'd run into him. Maybe it was a group dinner and everyone else had been cropped out. Maybe there was an explanation that would make sense if I just asked. I clicked to the next photo. Same restaurant, same dress. This time they were sitting across from each other at a small table, 2 glasses of wine between them, one red and one white. The candle in the center threw soft light across their faces, made them look golden and warm and intimate. She was leaning forward, elbows on the table. He was smiling, not the polite smile he used with strangers or coworkers, but the real one, the one that creased the corners of his eyes and showed his slightly crooked bottom teeth. The caption read, "Good food, better company." I don't remember breathing. I scrolled further. There were more. So many more. A photo of the sunset from a car window. Her car. I recognized the air freshener hanging from the mirror, one of those little trees that smelled like vanilla. A selfie of them in a park I knew, the one near our house with the duck pond and the walking trail. Her sunglasses were perched on her head. His hand was barely visible at the edge of the frame, resting on her shoulder. Another one from the week before, the two of them outside the bookstore, downtown, coffee cups in hand, both of them looking at something off camera. All of it recent. All of it while I was gone. All of it public. Posted like it was nothing. Like it was normal. Like I didn't exist. I sat there in my father's guest room, the house silent except for the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, and I felt my entire body go cold. Not hot with anger, not numb with shock. Cold, like I'd been submerged in ice water and forgotten how to move. I didn't call him. I didn't call her. I opened our text thread and scrolled backward, searching for proof that I was wrong. But the gaps were there. The nights he said he was tired and went to bed early. The afternoons he didn't answer because he was busy with work. The weekend he said he stayed home and cleaned the garage, a chore he'd been putting off for months, and sent me a photo of the organized tools as proof. I looked at that photo now with different eyes. The lighting was wrong, the angle was off. Had he even been home that day? Or had he sent me something old, something staged, something designed to keep me from asking questions? I opened her messages next, scrolled through weeks of texts. Just checking in, hope you're hanging in there, dropped off some soup for him. He said he loved it, thinking of you. Your dad is lucky to have you. Let me know if you need anything. Seriously, I'm here. Every message felt different now. Every kindness felt like camouflage. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I wanted to break something, hit something, make the world outside match the chaos inside my chest. Instead, I sat very still and made a list in my head of every time she'd offered to help, every time he'd mentioned her name, every small kindness I'd been grateful for. The list was long. By the time the sun came up, I had looked at those photos 20, maybe 30 times. I zoomed in on details, searching for more proof or perhaps for proof that I was wrong. The way his hand rested on her back, fingers splayed, casual and possessive at once. The angle of her smile. Was it different with him than it had been with me? The restaurant's name visible in the window reflection, Marcella's, a place we'd talked about trying together, but never had. He'd said it was too expensive. He'd said we should save it for an anniversary. I thought about texting her, confronting her, demanding an explanation, but I couldn't find the words. What do you say to someone you trusted with everything? What do you ask when you already know the answer? I thought about calling my father's nurse and saying I needed to leave early. I thought about showing up unannounced, catching them together, forcing the truth into the open. But mostly I just sat there, watching the sky turn from black to gray to pale blue, feeling like I was watching my own life from a great distance. I called the airline and moved my flight up, got a seat on a red-eye that left Portland at midnight and landed at noon the next day. I told my father I had a work emergency, something urgent that couldn't wait. He didn't argue. He just hugged me at the door and told me to drive safe. I'll be back soon, I said. I know. I wondered if he could see it on my face, the fracture, the crack running through the center of everything I thought I knew. The flight was nearly empty. I sat by the window and watched the lights below, cities and towns reduced to pinpricks, whole lives compressed into distant glow. The woman next to me slept the entire way. I didn't sleep at all. I thought about the first time he told me he loved me. We'd been dating for 6 months. We were lying in his apartment, some movie playing on his laptop, neither of us watching. He'd said it quietly, almost like he was afraid to say it out loud. I'd said it back immediately. It had felt easy. It had felt true. I thought about our wedding vows, the promises we'd made, for better or worse, in sickness and health, all the words people say without knowing what they mean. I thought about Sarah's speech at the reception, how she'd talked about loyalty, about friendship that lasts, about love that doesn't quit. Everyone had clapped. I'd squeezed her hand under the table. I thought about how stupid I'd been. He didn't know I was coming home early. I landed at noon and took a cab straight to the house. My hands shook the entire ride. The driver asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine. He didn't believe me. I didn't care. The house looked the same. His car in the driveway, the porch light still on from the night before, the mail sticking out of the box by the door. I used my key to unlock it and stepped inside. The air smelled different. Not bad, just different. Cleaner maybe, or warmer, like someone had been burning candles. I couldn't name it, but I knew it wasn't ours. His shoes were by the door, but not where he usually left them. Usually he kicked them off haphazardly, one by the mat and one halfway to the stairs. Now they were lined up neatly, side by side, laces tucked in. The kitchen counter was cleaner than I'd ever seen it. No mail piled up, no coffee rings, no crumbs by the toaster. There was a new coffee mug in the dish rack, white ceramic with a small chip on the handle. I didn't recognize it. In the living room, the throw pillows were arranged differently. 2 of them were on the floor, stacked in the corner. The blanket I kept on the back of the couch was folded in a way I never folded it, crisp hospital corners, edges perfectly aligned. I stood there for a long time, just breathing, taking inventory of all the small ways my home had become unfamiliar. Then I heard the shower, upstairs. I climbed the stairs slowly. One step, then another, my hand on the railing, my heart beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. The bathroom door was cracked open, steam spilling into the hallway, curling in the air like something alive. I could hear the water running, hear him humming something under his breath. He always hummed when he thought he was alone. Old songs from the radio, melodies I never recognized. I pushed the door open. Jesus! He turned, startled, water running down his face. You're home. I'm home. He stared at me through the glass shower door. I stared back. Neither of us moved. Water pooled at his feet, swirling toward the drain. You didn't tell me you were coming back today. I wanted to surprise you. He reached for the faucet and turned off the water. The silence that followed was so loud it felt physical, like the air itself had weight. He stepped out, grabbed a towel from the hook, wrapped it around his waist. His hair dripped onto the tile floor, little dark spots blooming on the grout. How's your dad? He asked. Better? Good. That's good. His voice was too even, too calm, like he was reading lines from a script he'd practiced. I watched him dry his hands. I watched him avoid my eyes. I watched the small movements of his body, the way his shoulders tensed, the way his jaw worked like he was chewing words he couldn't say. Sarah's been helping out, I said. Yeah, she's been great. I saw. He looked up. Something shifted in his face, just barely, just enough. Color drained from his cheeks. His hand stopped moving. Saw what? I pulled out my phone and opened the photos. I didn't hand it to him. I just held it up so he could see. The restaurant, the wine, her green dress, his arm around her waist. He went very still. The towel slipped an inch. He caught it, adjusted it. His knuckles were white. It's not. He stopped, started again. It's not what it looks like. What does it look like? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. We were just... She was helping me, keeping me company. I was lonely. You were gone, and I didn't know how to... He stopped, his voice cracked. It didn't mean anything. I set my phone on the counter. The screen went dark. How long? It was just a few times. Dinner, that's all. We were just talking. I swear to God, we were just... How long? He didn't answer. The silence stretched. 10 seconds. 20. I counted them in my head. Finally, he said, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Almost the entire time I'd been gone. Did you sleep with her? No. Don't lie to me. I'm not lying. Did you kiss her? He closed his eyes. That was answer enough. I slept in the guest room that night. He didn't try to stop me. I heard him moving around the house until almost 3 in the morning, opening drawers, closing doors, pacing the kitchen. The floorboards creaked. The refrigerator opened and closed. Once I heard him on the phone, his voice low and urgent, words I couldn't make out. I lay there in the dark and thought about all the ways I'd been wrong. Not wrong to trust him. Wrong to think that love was something you could build and keep. Wrong to think that distance was survivable. Wrong to think that loneliness was an excuse instead of a choice. I thought about her too, wondered if she'd felt guilty, if she'd hesitated before saying yes to dinner, if she'd thought about me at all. Or maybe she hadn't. Maybe it had been easy. Maybe I'd never been real to her in the first place, just an idea, an obstacle, something abstract and far away. The next morning, I came downstairs to find him at the kitchen table. He'd made coffee but hadn't poured any. He was just sitting there, staring at his hands. "We need to talk," he said. "I don't want to talk." "Please." I poured myself coffee, took my time adding cream, stirring slowly, watching the white swirl into brown. When I finally sat down, he looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time in weeks. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that doesn't help. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that." "Okay. I never meant to hurt you." "But you did." "I know. So what now?" He didn't have an answer. Sarah called that afternoon. I let it ring. She called again an hour later, and then again. Finally, she texted, "Please talk to me. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." I stared at the message for a long time, tried to imagine what she expected me to say, tried to imagine a version of this conversation where I forgave her, where we moved past it, where we stayed friends. Couldn't see it. I blocked her number. 10 minutes later, she called from a different phone. I blocked that one too. She came to the house that afternoon. I watched her from the upstairs window as she knocked on the door, waited, knocked again. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She wasn't wearing makeup. She stood there for 10 minutes before she left. I never opened the door. He moved out 2 weeks later, not because I asked him to, but because he couldn't stand the quiet. I'd stopped speaking to him except when necessary. I'd stopped sleeping. I'd stopped pretending any of this was fixable. We divided our things without lawyers. He took the couch. I kept the bed. He took half the dishes. I kept the coffee maker. We split books and movies and furniture with the cold efficiency of people who'd stopped loving each other enough to fight. The day he left, I stood in the kitchen and watched him carry boxes to his car. He looked smaller than I remembered, tired. There were shadows under his eyes. His shirt was wrinkled. He'd forgotten to shave. When he came back for the last load, he paused in the doorway. "I'm sorry," he said again. I didn't answer. "I know that doesn't help. I need you to know that." I looked at him, really looked at him, and I realized I didn't recognize the person standing there. Or maybe I did, and that was worse. Maybe this was who he'd always been, and I'd just chosen not to see it. "You should go," I said. He nodded, and then he left. I watched his car pull away, watched it turn the corner, watched it disappear. Then I closed the door and stood in the empty house and felt absolutely nothing. I kept the house, I kept the coffee maker, I kept the routines we'd built together, not because I wanted them, but because I didn't know what else to do. I went to work, I came home, I made dinner for one, I folded laundry and put it away in drawers that used to be full. Some nights I'd find something he'd left behind. A book on the nightstand, a jacket in the closet, a post-it note stuck to the fridge reminding me to buy milk. I'd stand there holding these small pieces of our life and feel nothing at all. Other nights, I'd feel everything. I tried to make sense of it. I replayed every moment, every conversation, every time I'd thought we were okay. I looked for signs I'd missed. There were so many. The way he stopped asking about my day. The way he started closing the door when he was on the phone. The way he looked at me sometimes, like he was already somewhere else. The way he stopped leaving notes on the mirror. The way Thursday nights stopped being ours. The way he'd started saying, "I love you," only after I said it first. I wondered if he'd loved me at all by the end, or if he'd just been too afraid to say he didn't. I wondered if Sarah had felt guilty, if she'd thought about me when she laughed at his jokes, when she posted those photos, when she wore that green dress, if she'd justified it to herself somehow, convinced herself it wasn't real betrayal because they hadn't, what, slept together? As if there were degrees of this, as if intention mattered more than impact. I wondered if I'd been easy to betray, if there was something I'd done wrong, some way I'd failed him that made this inevitable. I knew that was irrational. I knew I wasn't responsible for his choices. But late at night, when sleep wouldn't come, the thoughts circled anyway. Months passed, then a year. The seasons changed. The leaves fell. Snow came and melted. The world kept turning like nothing had happened. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped wondering where he was or who he was with. I stopped imagining conversations we'd never have. I stopped rehearsing the things I wished I'd said. I didn't forgive them. I didn't forget. But I stopped carrying it around like something I was supposed to fix. My father died in December. I was with him. The hospice nurse had called at 3 a.m. to say I should come. I drove through the dark, the roads empty, the radio playing softly. By the time I arrived, he was barely conscious. I held his hand and told him it was okay to go. He slipped away quietly, holding my hand, his breathing slow and then slower and then gone. I called my mother. I called the hospice nurse. I called the funeral home. I didn't call anyone else. At the funeral, I half expected to see them, but they didn't come, and I was grateful. I still live in the same house. I still make coffee at 6:15. I still fold dish towels even though no one's watching. The floors still creak, the windows still stick in summer, the clock still ticks in the hallway. Some mornings I think about him. Not the person he became, but the person he was when we started. The one who brought me coffee, who made me laugh, who promised me things I believed. The one who left notes on the mirror. The one who held my hand in movie theaters. The one who said my name like it meant something. I don't miss him, but I miss what I thought we were. People ask me sometimes if I've started dating again. I tell them I'm not ready. The truth is, I don't know if I'll ever be. Not because I'm broken, but because I'm careful now. I know how quickly trust can rot. I know how easy it is to love someone and still lose them. I know that proximity isn't the same as intimacy, that history isn't the same as loyalty. I know that the people closest to you can hurt you the deepest, not because they're cruel, but because you let them in. There's a coffee mug in my cupboard I've never used. White ceramic, small chip on the handle. I found it a few months after he left, pushed to the back of the shelf behind the others. I should have thrown it out, but I didn't. Some nights I take it down and hold it in my hands. I don't know why. Maybe because it's proof that it really happened, that I didn't imagine it, that for a little while my life looked one way, and then it looked completely different. Maybe because it's evidence. Not of guilt. I don't need evidence of that anymore, but of my own blindness, of the way I'd let comfort become complacency, of how I'd stopped paying attention. Maybe because even now I'm still trying to understand how two people I loved could do something I never saw coming. Or maybe because forgiveness isn't something you give, it's something you survive. I don't talk to Sarah anymore. I heard through mutual friends that she moved to another city, started over somewhere new. Denver, maybe, or Austin. Somewhere with better weather and fewer memories. I hope she's okay. I mean that. I hope she found whatever she was looking for. I hope she sleeps well at night. I hope she's learned something about herself, about loyalty, about the weight of choices. I hope he did too. Not because I've forgiven them, but because holding on to anger is its own kind of prison. And I've spent enough time locked in rooms I didn't build. Love didn't vanish. It just learned to take up less space. Some days, I still expect to hear his footsteps in the morning. I still catch myself setting out 2 mugs instead of 1. I still reach for my phone to text Sarah about something funny that happened, and then remember. But the hurt is quieter now. It doesn't scream anymore. It just sits in the corner of the room, patient and familiar, like an old scar that only aches when the weather changes. I've learned to live with it. The way you learn to live with anything that becomes part of your landscape. The way you learn to navigate around broken places until the detours become the path. I think about that last morning sometimes, the one before I left for Oregon, how normal it felt, how safe. The way he kissed my forehead and told me to go, told me he'd be fine, the way I believed him. I wonder if he already knew, if the loneliness he felt was real, or just an excuse he gave himself later, if he'd been waiting for me to leave, or if the opportunity simply presented itself and he took it. I wonder if she thought about me when she agreed to check on him, if she hesitated, if guilt ever kept her awake, or if it was easy for her, if she'd wanted him all along and I'd been too blind to see it. I wonder if they're still in touch, if they tried to make something real out of what they'd started, if it fell apart as quickly as it began, if they think about me at all. I wonder if love is ever really enough. The house is quieter now. Some nights I sit in the kitchen with a cup of tea and listen to the refrigerator hum. The clock still ticks in the hallway. The coffee maker still starts at 6:15, even though I'm the only one who hears it. The floors still creak in the same places. The walls still hold the same shadows. I've stopped trying to make sense of what happened. Some things don't have answers. Some people just leave. Some love just ends, not with drama or resolution, but with silence and distance and the slow recognition that nothing will ever be the same. And some mornings you wake up and realize you've survived something you didn't think you could. There's a photo I keep in a drawer upstairs. It's from the wedding, him and me and Sarah, all of us smiling, arms around each other, faces flushed from dancing. We looked so happy. We were so happy. I don't look at it often, but I haven't thrown it away. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll be able to look at it without feeling that twist in my chest, that mix of nostalgia and nausea. Maybe someday it will just be a picture, nothing more. But not yet. The truth is, I don't think about them as much anymore. I think about my father. I think about the way he held my hand at the end, the way his eyes found mine even when he couldn't speak. I think about how love, real love, doesn't hide. It doesn't flinch. It doesn't post pictures online and pretend everything is fine. Real love stays, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when staying means sitting with someone while they die, holding their hand in the dark, bearing witness to the end of things. And maybe that's the lesson I was supposed to learn. Not that people will betray you, but that the ones who don't, those are the ones worth keeping. I went back to Oregon last month. I had to settle the estate, sort through decades of accumulated life, decide what to keep and what to let go. I stood in my father's empty house and looked at the guest room where I'd sat that night, scrolling through photos that would change everything. The room looked smaller than I remembered. The walls were bare, the air smelled stale, dust floated in the late afternoon light, golden and slow. I thought I'd feel something standing there, anger, sadness, closure, some definitive emotion that would mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. But I just felt tired, so I locked the door and drove home. Some nights, when I can't sleep, I still think about that green dress, the way she laughed in the candlelight, the way his arm looked around her waist, the casual intimacy of it, the way they looked like they belonged together. I think about how easily we believed each other, how quickly everything unraveled once I started looking. I think about trust, how fragile it is, how impossible to rebuild once it's broken. How it's not one thing, but 1,000 small things, accumulated over time, stacked like stones until you have something solid, and how it only takes one lie, one secret, one betrayal to knock the whole structure down. And I think about mornings, how they keep coming, whether you're ready or not, how the sun rises and the coffee brews and the world continues to turn, indifferent to your pain. There's a new routine now. I wake up at 6, I make coffee, I sit by the window and watch the neighborhood come to life. Joggers, dog walkers, people in business clothes hurrying to their cars. I used to hate mornings alone. Now I've learned to find peace in them. I've started painting the bedroom a different color, something warmer, something that doesn't remind me of him. The paint cans are still sitting in the hallway, but I'll get to it eventually. There's no rush. I've made new friends. Slowly, carefully. People from work, neighbors, a book club I joined on a whim. They don't know the whole story. They don't need to. They know me as I am now, not as I was then. I've learned that healing isn't linear, that some days I'm fine and some days I'm not, that grief and anger can coexist with hope and peace, that you can build a new life while still mourning the old one. I saw her once, about 6 months ago. I was at the grocery store, reaching for cereal on the top shelf, and there she was at the end of the aisle. Our eyes met. She froze. I froze. For a second, I thought she might approach me. I thought I might have to decide whether to speak to her or walk away. But then she turned and disappeared down another aisle. I finished my shopping and drove home. And I realized I didn't feel anything. No anger, no pain. Just a dull recognition, like seeing someone from a dream you half remember. Maybe that's what closure feels like. Not resolution, but indifference. I never stopped loving him. I just stopped believing love was enough to keep someone from leaving. And maybe that's the hardest truth of all. Not that people change, but that you can love them completely and still lose them. That you can build a life with someone and wake up one day to find it belonged to someone else. That the person you thought you knew can become a stranger while you're looking the other way. That love, no matter how deep, can't protect you from loneliness or boredom or the slow erosion of commitment That sometimes people choose comfort over loyalty, that sometimes they just choose themselves. The coffee maker starts at 6:15. I pour a cup, warm my hands around it, and sit in the kitchen as the sun comes up. Light spills through the window, catches the dust in the air, turns everything golden. The silence doesn't feel lonely anymore. It just feels true, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all any of us get. Small truths, small comforts, small moments of peace between the storms. Maybe healing isn't about forgetting or forgiving. Maybe it's just about learning to breathe again. The house still creaks, the clock still ticks, but they're my sounds now, my rhythms, my life, rebuilt from the pieces they left behind. I take a sip of coffee. It's still warm, and for now, that's enough.